Okay, so let's unpack this. You think about the sun, right? Just this incredible, almost limitless potential energy source. But then you consider the invisible hurdles stopping us capturing every last bit of that energy, turning it into power we can actually use. And one of the biggest challenges, maybe the biggest, isn't just collecting the light, it's um, keeping that energy once you've got it before it just, disappears. That's really the core battle we're going to explore in this deep dive today. We're shining a light, you could say, on the real cutting edge of solar tech. We're diving into a pretty fascinating patent document from a company called Solarlab Aiko Europe GmbH. And our mission here is to reveal, well, not just the company, but this really persistent hunt for efficiency. And explain it in a way that makes this complex science actually click for you, our listener, and show what the future of solar cells might genuinely look like.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is exactly that relentless, um, constant push for more, the drive to squeeze just a little bit more power out of every single ray of sunshine. It's absolutely crucial. I mean, for our whole global energy future. And you're right, patents like this one from Solarlab Aiko, they aren't just legal bits of paper. They are, well, they're basically blueprints, aren't they? They give us this tangible glimpse into exactly where the industry is heading. The specific innovations, the intricate tech that's driving clean energy forward. It shows the actual paths researchers are taking to make solar stronger, more efficient, and hopefully more accessible.
That's a really critical distinction, yeah. And speaking of the players driving this, let's look into who SolarLab Ico Europe GmbH actually is. So the patent lists them as the applicant, obviously based in Freiburg, Germany, which right away signals they're a significant player, an innovator actively developing these new solar cell technologies. And what's also interesting, it's not just a European thing. The patent clearly lists the inventors, let me see, CHEN, Wenli XU, Kaimin QIU, Yongquan Wang, and Xinquang Yang, and it notes their location as Yiwu, China, which really highlights how global and collaborative this whole solar industry is now. Expertise crossing borders to tackle these big energy challenges. It's a truly international effort pushing the science forward.
Absolutely. And if we connect that to the bigger picture, companies like Aiko, when they actively pursue and really carefully secure patents, they're doing more than just protecting one idea. They're signaling this deep, sustained commitment to R&D. Research and development. Look, in a sector as dynamic, as fiercely competitive as renewables, locking down your intellectual property, it's not just a legal thing. It's strategic, really strategic. It's about making sure their foundational work, their breakthroughs, even the small improvements are protected, which then lets them invest more, innovate further, and basically keep their edge in a market that's changing incredibly fast. This kind of long-term investment is key, not just for inventing tech, but making it actually viable, getting it out there.
That makes total sense. And this consistent evolution, this building on previous work, it's pretty remarkable. It shows they're not just having these one-off flashes of inspiration, but like systematically building on their own stuff.
Right.
So, okay, let's talk about that history, because this specific patent application, US 2250261-473A1, published August 14th, 2025, this isn't their first step in this area, is it? Not by long shot.
No, not at all. It's part of a much bigger story, a longer thread.
Right. We're talking about a continuous line of applications going back to, 2021, including several continuation in part patents, even related Chinese applications. Like this current one, it's a direct continuation of one filed in 2023, which itself continued one from May 2024. The date seems a bit odd there in the source, but okay, we'll stick with it. And that one was a continuation from 2022, which is now actually patent number 12,211,950. Plus, there's a continuation in part from back in October 2021, now patent number 11,489,080. And then those two Chinese patent applications from July 2021. Phew. Okay, so what this really paints a picture of is this multi-year evolving research effort, consistently focused on similar core tech, specifically these passivated contact structures. It shows a company just methodically refining, perfecting a specific approach to solar efficiency.
And that whole pattern raises an important question, What does it really mean? It speaks volumes about their strategy. Look, a robust patent portfolio, especially one with all these continuations in part, it tells you the company isn't just throwing ideas at the wall. No, they are deeply invested in refining, protecting, and constantly expanding a core technology, a core concept. Think of it less like separate little inventions and more like building a house, maybe. Each continuation lets them add a new feature or strengthen an existing wall or even add a whole new wing to their innovation, but without knocking the whole thing down and starting over. It shows that sustained, strategic commitment to improving performance, building on what they did before, and making sure every little step forward is protected as they go. It's definitely a sign of a very focused, very long-term R&D game plan.
Okay, a really strong foundation then. So let's dive into the heart of this specific patent, the US 225026147 a The big problem it's trying to solve is, well, it's fundamental in solar cells. It's called recombination. So sunlight hits the cell, right? And it knocks loose electrons and these things called holes, which are basically like positive charge carriers. Ideally, these charges just flow quickly directly to where we can collect them as electricity, but often before they get collected they kind of bump into each other and poof, recombine. They effectively cancel each other out. I like the analogy you used before, like a crowded concert, everyone trying to leave, but instead of smooth lines to the exit, people just keep bumping into each other, getting stuck, not reaching the exit efficiently. That lost motion, that lost energy, that means less electricity generated from the sunlight. It's like the silent thief of solar power.
That's a perfect analogy. Yeah, recombination. It's really the primary enemy of efficiency in photovoltaics. It's what everyone's fighting against. And the genius, really, of these passivated contact structures is they address exactly that problem. By creating these specific passivation layers, they're not just trying to guide the charges better. They're actively sort of neutralizing the traps or the defects right there in the silicon surface, where those electrons and holes normally get snagged and recombined. Imagine turning a bucket that's full of tiny leaks, where the charges are constantly slipping away into a perfectly sealed container for electricity. These layers just dramatically increase the chance of collecting those charges before they recombine, which is, well, it's a massive leap in potential efficiency. See, without good passivation, the surface of the silicon is just full of what they call dangling bonds, like tiny little hands reaching out waiting to grab and neutralize any free electrons or holes that come by. So this innovation is all about stopping that grabbing action, tying up those hands, so to speak.
That's brilliant. So Aiko's solution, this passivated contact structure, instead of the leaky bucket or the chaotic concert, it's more like building a much better, highly optimized pathway and like a super efficient gatekeeper for these charges, guiding them exactly where they need to go, minimizing those lost collisions, those trapping events.
Precisely. It's a sophisticated system designed to shepherd every possible charge carrier safely to its destination.
Okay, so how do they actually build this thing? Let's maybe think of it like a solar cell sandwich, but a very advanced one. It starts at the base, right? The silicon substrate, that's the main material. Then, on this base, they add specific doped regions. Now, what exactly does doped mean here? You mentioned it's like adding spices to a dish.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Doping means intentionally introducing tiny amounts of impurities into the silicon crystal. So like adding phosphorus or boron.
Yeah.
These spices change the silicon's electrical properties in very specific ways. For example, an N-type region, which the patent talks about a lot, means it's been doped to have an excess of free electrons. N for negative charge carriers. This basically creates an electron-rich highway. It makes it easy for electrons to flow one way. And conversely, a P-type region would be doped to have extra holes, those positive charge carriers. These doped regions are crucial because they create this internal electric field inside the cell. And that field is what separates the electrons and holes generated by sunlight. It pushes them towards their respective collection points, creating the current. Without that built-in field from doping, the charges would just sort of wander around, recombine, and you wouldn't get any useful power out.
Got it. So you establish these fundamental doped pathways first. Then the real key innovation in this patent, you're saying, is these two passivated contact regions built on top of that substrate. And each of these regions is made up of multiple super thin layers itself. And among those layers, the most critical are these passivation layers. What exactly is a passivation layer doing in the sandwich? Why is it so vital?
Right. So a passivation layer, in essence, is a very, very thin, carefully engineered coating. They apply it right onto the surface of the silicon. Its main job, its number one priority, is to chemically and electronically neutralize those dangling bonds we talked about, those surface defects. Because these defects, they're notorious recombination centers. They just love to siphon off the electrons and holes before you can collect them. So these passivation layers, they act like protective shields. They drastically reduce that surface recombination, preserving the charges, letting them travel further and get collected more efficiently. Honestly, without effective passivation, even the best, purest silicon would perform really poorly as a solar cell. It's that important. And here's where it gets really fascinating. A crucial detail about these passivation layers. Specifically, the first and second ones they describe. Within the contact region, they have a porous structure.
Porous, like a sponge.
Kind of. Imagine them not just as a solid shield, but like a carefully designed microsieve, maybe, full of tiny, perfectly controlled holes or pores.
Now, this structure is incredibly clever. It helps in two big ways. First, these micropores act like tiny windows or channels. They allow for a really close, really efficient electrical connection with the metal contacts that come next, which is vital for actually getting the electricity out of the cell. But at the same time, this unique porous design still manages to perform that delicate surface passivation job. It minimizes the places where charges can get lost or recombine. So it's a structural trick that elegantly solves two problems at once. You get great electrical contact, and you significantly reduce recombination losses. It's a real win-win, both for efficiency and potentially for manufacturing too, because you're getting the maximum current out while keeping the losses down. And connecting the dots even further, the patent specifically mentions, and this is important, that a hole density of the first passivated layer is greater than that in the N-type doped region. Okay, hole density greater. Yeah, what is that, Chief? Right, sounds technical, but it's fundamental to how well the cell works. And it shows just how precisely they're engineering this. Remember we said N-type regions are rich in electrons, the negative carriers. Well, by making the next layer, the passivation layer, have a higher density of holes, the positive carriers, they basically designed it to be exceptionally good at attracting and guiding those holes where they need to go. And at the same time, it naturally repels the electrons away from that area. So it creates this highly selective pathway, ensures holes don't get lost or recombine with nearby electrons, and encourages electrons to move off in their proper direction. It's all about optimizing the traffic flow, creating these very specific, almost segregated highways for each type of charge carrier. It's really sophisticated control at the nanoscale. And to get this level of precision, it's not just silicon they're using. The patent details layer is made of a whole mix of advanced materials. Things like amorphous silicon, which is great for smoothly coating the crystalline silicon and neutralizing defects. Silicon carbide, known for strength and electrical properties. Aluminum oxide, which is actually a fantastic insulator, but used here for specific electrical properties that make it really good at repelling electrons, so it helps guide the holes even better. Silicon nitride, too. And then, of course, metals like copper and silver for the actual contacts to draw the current away. Each material is like a specialized tool in this tiny high-performance engine, chosen for its unique contribution to the cell's overall efficiency and hopefully its durability, too. It's like material science symphony, really.
Wow. Okay, so bringing it all together, what does this all mean for you, the listener, and maybe for the bigger picture of renewable energy? Essentially, this incredibly complex layering, this precisely engineered porous design, optimizing where the holes and electrons go, it all leads to a significantly more efficient solar cell, right? It means more of the sun's energy actually gets converted into usable electricity, less waste, significantly more power out of each individual panel. So in simple terms, it really is about getting more bang for your solar buck, making solar power even more effective, potentially more affordable for, homes, businesses, entire grids. These aren't just tiny incremental gains, are they? They sound like the kind of detailed microscopic improvements that really add up to a big impact globally.
Absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, innovations exactly like this one from Solarlab Aiko, the ones that meticulously focus on the microscopic efficiency inside the cell, they are fundamental, absolutely fundamental. Each little improvement, no matter how small or technical it seems buried in a patent document, it chips away at the overall cost of solar power, the levelized cost of energy, or LCOE. Because if each square inch of a panel produces more electricity, well, you need fewer panels for the same power output. That means lower material costs, lower installation costs, less land needed. This steady, persistent progress makes solar more and more competitive against traditional fossil fuels. It accelerates its adoption worldwide, and it just brings us demonstrably closer to a truly sustainable energy future. It's how the revolution quietly happens, really, one microscopic layer at a time.
You've just taken a deep dive with us into the kind of hidden, really intricate innovation that truly drives progress in renewables. It's these specific, often unseen developments, materials science, clever engineering that are quietly but powerfully creating the clean energy solutions for tomorrow. It's not always about the grand, sweeping announcements, is it? It's often about this meticulous, focused work by engineers and scientists pushing the boundaries, one tiny layer at a time. So as we keep trying to harness the sun's power more effectively, it makes you wonder, what other seemingly small, nuanced innovations like this do you think are just waiting out there, maybe buried in another patent document, ready to unlock the next big leap forward in renewable energy?